Hey friends, welcome back to my sewing room. My name is Becca. In today's video, we are going to work on clue number 5 for the Carnival puzzle mystery quilt. I can't believe we're halfway done. I am so excited to work on this with you and apparently him.
You know this is my channel, right?
Oh no.
Hey everybody, it's Ian the Off Kilter Crafter. I hope you're having a great day today. And as my friend Becca introduced, yes, we're going to be working on Carnival Clue 5. We are halfway there. So excited that we are halfway to finding out what Carnival actually looks like when it is all said and done. And we'll see. I'm going to try again when we get to clue 9 if I'm going to be able to put it together. But that's down the road. For now, I'm going to be working on clue 5, and I want to shout out Becca so much for letting me use her studio while I'm here to sew together clue number 5. Let's stop talking about 5. How many times have I said clue 5? Let's get started and put together clue 5. I said it again. Let's go. All right, let's go ahead and get started, even though this is my usual setup, as y'all are all very well aware of. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I have my clue packet 5, which has our little goodie in it here in clue number 5. I also have my color guide and, of course, the instructions for clue 5 of the large quilt for Carnival. Let's go ahead and open up clue 5 and see what's inside. All right, first off the bat, we have a patch, it looks like, from Cotton Cuts. It's got the Cotton Cuts logo on it. Remember, your clue 5 should have a little goodie in it. Usually clue 1, 5, and 10 have some sort of little goodie for you to have inside of them. So here is what I got for clue 5. Yours may be different though, so it may be something different other than this patch. So check your clue 5 and see what you got. Okay, it looks like we have 2 smaller rectangles of fabric A. We have 2 small rectangles of fabric B. We also have 6 triangles, small triangles of fabric B. We have 7 small triangles of fabric C. We have 4 small triangles of fabric D. We have 10 small triangles of fabric A. We have 2 of our small triangles in fabric F. We also have 19, goodness gracious, 19 small triangles of fabric E. I have 2 small squares of fabric F. I have 3 small squares, I almost said triangles, 3 small squares of fabric E. Next up, we have 3 small squares of fabric D. I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to move these up a little bit, move the instructions up. I have 1 small square of fabric E. I have 1 small square of fabric A. Next up, I have 1 larger triangle, or excuse me, 2 of larger triangles A. I also have 2 longer rectangles of fabric A. And last but certainly not least, I have 2 larger rectangles of fabric B. All right, I've got a lot of fabric in front of me. I'm going to go ahead and get this all organized, and we'll go ahead and get started with step number 1. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to start off with section 5A. We'll be making 2 of section 5A, and the instructions tell us how to make both of them at the same time. We're going to start off with 1.1. It says to join a small triangle of our D fabric to a small triangle of our E fabric. We're going to make 2 of these, so we're just going to be making it just like this. Then for 1.2, we're going to join a small triangle of C to a small triangle of E, and we're going to do this 2 times. And then for step 1.3, we're going to sew step 1.2 to the right of a step 1.1. So we're just going to bring this all together like this. I'm going to go ahead and sew all of that together, and I'll come back when I have completed step 1.3. Okay, there we go. There is our completed 1.3. Let's go ahead and move on to our step 2s. All right, moving on to step 2.1, it says to join a small triangle of A to a small triangle of E. For 2.2, we're going to join a small triangle of A to a small triangle of C. And then for 2.3, we're going to sew all of them together so that it looks something like this. It's exactly what we just did, just using the fabric in a little bit of a different order. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this together, and I'll come back when I am finished pressing it out. All right, there we go. I have completed step 2.3. Let's go ahead and move on to step 3. For step 3, it says to sew a 2.3 to the top of a 1.3. So basically we're just creating, we're adding what we just created to the top of what we have here. Our E triangles will line up here on the left side. Our C triangles will match up here on the right side. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back after I press it out. And we're pressing down to the bottom, FYI. All right, there we go. I have completed our step 3. I have 2 of them so far, of course. Let's go ahead and move on to step number 4. Okay, moving on to step number 4, it says to sew a small triangle of E to the top right of a large triangle of A. We're going to press that, and then we're going to add a small triangle of B to the top left. We're going to make 2 of these in total, and I'm not going to stop in between putting on my E and my B, but I am going to go ahead and come back when I finish putting it all together. Remember, we're going to be pressing away from our A triangle. I'm going to go ahead and sew both of these together, and I'll come back when I have finished with pressing everything out. Okay, I've completed step number 4. We pressed away from our A triangle in the center. Let's go ahead and move on to step number 5. All right, for step number 5, it says to join a long rectangle of A to the bottom of a step 4. Then we're going to add a step 3 to the bottom of that. And we're going to make 2 of these in total, and we'll be pressing. We're going to be following the direction of the arrow that is formed by pressing up towards the top. I'm going to go ahead and sew all these together, and I'll come back when I have finished pressing everything out. Okay, I have finished our step 5. You might notice mine are a little wonky. That's because I'm borrowing Becca's machine, and my eye for the 1/4 of an inch on this machine is not accurate. And so, as you can see, I did have a little variation in sizing from when we worked our first part to when we just did our part right here. So that is okay. I am going to make this work. I could rip everything apart and retry it all, but I don't want to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and keep moving forward. And, you know, when I put the full quilt together, it might be a little wonky, but I'm okay with that, and I'm going to make it work. So ignore the wonkiness, but we've completed step number 5. Let's move on to step 6. Okay, moving on to step 6.1, it says to join a small triangle of B to a small triangle of E. We're going to make 2 of those. Then for step 6.2, it says to sew a B rectangle to the top of step 6.1. And then we're going to add an F square on the top of that. So we're going BE, then we're going to add the B on top of that, and then we're going to add the F on top of that. So it makes one long column just like this. I'm going to go ahead and sew this together, and I'll come back when I am finished pressing it out. Okay, I've gone ahead and sewn those together. There were no pressing instructions for how to press all these together, but I went ahead and pressed them towards the center, and I did that because if you look on the back side of our previous one, our step 5, these are actually going away from the center. These seams are actually going away from the center of our block. I got lost there for a second. So when I put these together, I should be able to nest them pretty easily because they are going opposite directions here. So I went ahead and pressed it towards the center. I made towards or away? Towards the center. I made an executive decision. We'll see if it works out. All right, so we're done with our step 6.2. At some point, we're going to be sewing these onto our previous 5, but that is going to wait for a moment. It looks like we're going to be moving on to step 7. Okay, moving on to our step 7s. First of all, it says to join a small triangle of D fabric to a small triangle of E fabric. We're going to press towards our E fabric. 7.2, we're going to take a small triangle of E and attach it to a small triangle of A, press towards our A fabric. For step 7.3, we're going to make a C and A triangle. So we're going to add a small triangle of A to a small triangle of C. We're going to press towards our A fabric. And then for step 7.4, we're going to sew a step 7.1 to the top of a 7.2. And then we're going to add a small rectangle to the bottom of a 7.2, and then we're going to sew a 7.3 below the rectangle. We're going to make 2 of these in total. So it should go our E fabric and our D fabric up top. E fabric and A fabric comes next. A fabric rectangle goes after that. And finally, it should be A fabric and C fabric, just like you see it here on my screen. And don't forget to look at your directions as well. I'm going to sew all of this together, and I'm going to come back when I've completed step 7.4. All right, I have finished step 7.4. We have our D, E, E, A rectangle, A, C. So they should look something like this. I got a perfectly centered raccoon on there, and I love that. Let's go ahead and move on to step 7, or actually I was about to say 7.5, but it's actually step 8. Okay, moving on to step 8, it says to sew a 6.2, which is over here to the left of our step 5. And then we're going to sew a 7.4 to the right. So when it's all said and done with, your E fabric here on the lower left will match up. Your E fabric here on the upper right will match up. And we also have our, let's see, this is C fabric. C fabric will also line up. And then of course the A fabric as well. So you can see several points where your fabrics should match up if you've gotten everything in alignment. I'm going to go ahead and sew all of these together, and I'll come back when I finish step number 8. All right, there we go. I have completed step number 8. We're going to label these as section 5A. It is all done. 5A is all done, I should say. And I will have to do a little bit of working on the bottom here. You can see that it kind of stair steps a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to make it work when I put these into the final quilt, and I can make that work. It's just going to be a little finessing as I put the whole thing together. But there we go. There's our 5A. Let's go ahead and move on to 5B. All right, here we go. We're going to move on to section 5B. We'll only be making one of section 5B, so this might throw you off a little bit. We're going to be starting off for step 1.1. It says we're going to make we're going to use a small triangle of E and a small triangle of B, and we're only doing this once. You only need one. So here's our E fabric and our B fabric. We're going to make a half square triangle like that. Then for 1.2, it says to join a small triangle of C fabric to a small triangle of B fabric. So we have our B and C half square triangle over here. And then for step 1.3, it says to join steps 1 and 1.2 and to the right of 1.1. So we're going to put 1.2 over here on the right of 1.1. And then we're going to add a small B rectangle to each end. We're only going to make one of these. So it's a flying geese with the B rectangles on either side. I'm going to go ahead and sew all of this together, and I'll come back when I finish step 1.3. All right, there we go. I have completed step 1.3. This is what it looks like. We're only making one of them, which feels really weird to say that, but that's all we're doing. Let's move on to step 2. All right, moving on to step 2, it says to join a small triangle of A to a small triangle of E. We're going to be making 2 of these. So then when we move on to 2.2, it says to join a 2.1 to the left and right of a square as shown. So we have an A square in the center. We're matching up our A fabrics just like this. I'm going to go ahead and sew all of this together, and I will come back when I finish with step 2.2. All right, there we go. There's a completed step 2.2. Let's go ahead and move on to step 3. All right, for step number 3, we're going to make 2 F and E half square triangles just like this. We're going to have 2 of them when we are finished. And then for step 3.2, we're going to add those to the left and right of a D square as shown. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when I'm pressing them out. Okay, I have completed step 3.2. It should look like F, E, D being in the center, and then E, F back out. So we press that towards the outside away from our D fabric. Let's go ahead and move on to step number 4. All right, for step number 4, we're going to sew a D square to the left and right of an E square, just like this. Then we're going to press away from our E square. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when I have pressed them out. Okay, there we go. I have finished step 4. We're going to move on to step 5, and it looks like we're going to go ahead and put everything together. Okay, moving on to step 5, it says we are going to join step 1.3 to the top of a step 2.2, sew a step 3.4 to the top of a step 4, and then we're going to join both of these units together with step 4 being at the bottom and step 1.3 at the top, so it should line up exactly as you see it here. There's nothing that really lines up specifically, so it's hard for me, like none of my shapes really line up. So you're basically looking for your E's to kind of be waterfall. We'll go with waterfall. So our E fabric kind of waterfalls there. I'm going to go ahead and sew all of this together, and I'll come back when I have finished sewing this one together. All right, there we go. That's what it looks like when it is all put together for our step 5. This one makes me feel a little crazy because there's nothing I could really line it up with. The shapes are a little weird. I don't know. This block just makes me feel a little crazy, but it is done, and this is going to be labeled as either section 5B or clue 5B, whichever way you would like to put that. And at the end of the day, we have completed both our 5A and our 5B clues. Like I said, I'll label them as such. And we will be ready for next month, which will be month 6. And we're more than at that point, we will be more than halfway on to finding out what this looks like when it is all said and done. And I can't wait to see what this one looks like.